Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Anons and Twitter frogs, creatures alike. Welcome to the stream. I am joined by the ever wonderful future dictator of Tennessee, Mr. Michael Pohl himself, for this chill stream. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, welcome to my workshop. I didn't see you there. This is gonna be an awesome chill out stream, guys. No, I'm doing really good. No, it's Friday. Happy Friday to everyone. I hope that everyone, got off on time, didn't have to put any OT in, and has got a cold beer in their hand and is remembering our general, Mr. Lee. Thank you, Mr. Lee, for your service. You will always be remembered.
Saint Lee, as I'll call him, because
Saint
he
Lee.
made it. We know he's up there, so it's not even a
He's
question.
up there for sure. But no, I think not to get off onto that stuff. I do think that actually galvanized Lee's memory, and people started bringing up quotes again on the timeline, and it's maybe the real Lee. General Lee were the friends that we made along the way. And so there was a lot of wholesome Chungus moments on the timeline today. So that made me happy.
No, it really did. And honestly, our enemies can't do anything better but give us the ultimate fuel to produce the best memes possible. It's like a contradiction of reality to where every time they try to do these humiliating images, the one that comes to mind is Donald Trump, with his prison shot.
Yeah.
And it's just the most iconic image ever, and just galvanizes everyone against them. And that image of them with his face melting, that stirred something in my soul, you just can't, you can't explain.
It's a powerful picture. I mean, I think it really. I think Gio would say something. This as like an art moment, or as an art object, right? The glowing face of Lee. That it kind of signifies his revenge, he's alive in some sense, right? He's more lively and dynamic, and I think that's an interesting aesthetical point about the image itself, is that it almost signifies like I don't know. I posted on Twitter early this morning, and then my spirit will rise from the grave, and the world will see that I'm right. And I attributed the quote to Lee, because that's what the image makes. As funny as that misquote is, I think that kind of signifies what that image is actually stirs in your soul, is that no, it's still alive. Everything that we love is still alive. You gotta reach out and touch it.
No, it calls back to the spirit of what the statue represented, but it's still there, even though these absolute fags and retards are going to destroy it. They can't destroy the spirit of what the statue represents. That's the one thing they can't destroy.
Yeah, I remember in Tennessee when they took down our Bedford Forest statue. It was right there on a little strip of private property right off the highway, and the battle flags are still up. But that definitely made me sad. It had fallen in disrepair, because anytime there would be protests anytime someone went out there to maintain it and stuff like that. It was a very sad state of affairs, and it's but every time I pass that spot and I see the mount where that statue was, I still go, well, there's still something there. And you bitches can never take that from me, ever.
No, and these absolute fat land wells, deracinated, just absolute drones. The system will never produce anything. In fact, after they're gone and they've used all their diabetes coupons to get their Oreos that they're engorging themselves with, and attending the next climate change rally, nobody will ever remember their names at all. They'll be completely forgotten throughout all of history. Lee will always be remembered. And that's what gives me it's bitches, you try to remove my statue. It's I'm gonna be here long after you, fools.
Yeah, it's I mean, it goes back to the Tolkien thing, right? Is evil can only cannot, it's not generative. It can't create anything. It only corrupts what is good. It's well, that means that the essence, the seed of good, is always still present. That's the thing. It's we're trying to white pill here, and that's the thing. Is even though it was a very tragic case, and just like a lot of modern events, like there is always like a seedling of like this imminent reversal of where is the good and everything. Oh, sorry, hold on, I found one second.
Oh, we had a boomer moment on stream anyway. Um, no, but like the sheer iconicity of that image is going to like live on uh, in the minds of the Twitter frogs and like everyone throughout all of human history. And these morons, what they tend to use for humiliation and demoralization, will be used in the opposite process. And, like our good friend Paul likes to say, the statue just got 10 feet bigger when we inevitably destroy these people and come back
Dude,
into power.
dude, freaking Lou Templar's tweet as well. He did a little art piece. We can't, or what was it? We can build more, or we will build more. Dude, that hit pretty hard. Lou Templar is always very timely with like an uplifting kind of propaganda poster. So I really hope they decide to sell that on Good Suffer. I think I might message him later and be like, hey, I will buy 10 of those because oh man, I need 10 of those posters, man. Uh oh dude,
No, it's so
powerful
true.
stuff.
And it's going to be in downtown Richmond. The statue will be 100 feet tall. And it will never be removed from the town square of Robbery Lee. And it's going back in Charlottesville as well.
I wonder who is the wackiest like the most esoteric wacky person, like even Right Theory Cell or something like that you would erect a statue of.
Lovecraft, maybe?
Oh, Lovecraft's a good one. That one's kind of that's deep, deep ecology kind of rightism. I'm trying to think of who I would do.
Maybe the founder of Scientology. Maybe he kind of reminds me of Geo in a way, like a mix between Geo, like kind of art perspective, and like this like sort of Lovecraftian guy.
Yeah.
I forgot what his name was. I should know it, but because he's an American icon for many variety of reasons.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because like does it have to be popular? Because of course I would do someone like oh on Resistance to Evil by Force. Is that Ivan Ilyich? Ilyich? Yeah,
Yes, I think it's Ivan Ilyich.
yeah. I would probably do that one and maybe a more libertarian politics, but lib right. So yeah, cringe, but I would still throw up a J Stark, J Stark 1809 up there. But that would be a small one. That would be a small city square, quiet city square, where it can be contemplated for in a different aspect. This is not a hero. This is not some war hero. This is, even though I do believe he is a martyr, maybe something like that. I think that would be a poetic little note in a nice, peaceful little garden.
Yeah, it's very wholesome, Chungus on this channel, as we like to say from our good buddy Geo,
Dude,
Pinochetti's, we like
wholesome
to call him.
I've started saying wholesome chungus around normies, and they're like, "Oh, that's kind of cute." So it actually translates into normie world pretty well, actually. So I advise all of you Spurgs who can't keep it in, can't keep your power level in, just make reference to the wholesome chungus stuff on the timeline, and then you can get your fix and talk about timeline stuff without without giving away too much. That's my advice. If anyone wants some unsolicited advice, that's mine.
Bro, I'm just imagining for Halloween, like the most like esoteric, like alt-right poster on Twitter is gonna dress up as like Julius Evola for Halloween. He's gonna hand out like Cthulhu candy to the kids with like a copy of Revolt Against the Modern World.
Dude, that it's so funny you say that because me and my very based roommate are kind. He's not cringe. He's kind of like a Burkean, a pseudo Burkean conservative guy is my other roommate. But me and my base roommate, we have decided to do our we've done our Halloween theme as ultra shit lived. So we've got yard signs like that are in this house we believe, covered in cobwebs. We've got a Ukraine, I stand with Ukraine with the Azov thing in the middle. So that's a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Like we've just totally decked it out with just progressive stuff covered in cobwebs. And we have a very progressive neighbor, and I'm just like, yeah, eat shit. Eat shit, dude.
Yeah, pointing out the insanity of their own positions on public display really gets them going.
Yeah, just be a Chad. That's something that like I don't feel like, even though I'm pretty sure my neighbor is insane, I don't care. Like even if he tries to go, old McAfee on me and assault me or something like that, it's just like, dude, it's all for fun. You're proving me right the entire time.
No, these we should never forget that these people are miserable. I mean, just look at these progressives and like other subhuman types on the left. Like they're extremely dysmorphic, ugly, depressed. They're on pills, psychiatrist medicines. They're going to the therapist every week like a bitch. You know what I mean? Like these people are not strong. They're very weak. They don't live good lives.
Yeah,
They're
there
extremely deeply miserable.
I think there's like there is a very small minority of them that are happy, but those are the people that like are inconsequential and are just like, yeah, I vote for progressive candidates and don't really mind like internet politics. Like a majority, so that's like 1% of the left, right? And that's maybe 2% of progress or 5% of progressives, right? But the vast majority of progressives themselves, one thing that I've noticed is that they are universally all kind of consumed by current thingism, but they get the kind of like I don't know, voyeuristic pleasure of like being able to do that, talk out the current thing stuff at work. And so it becomes like way more feedbacky than I guess like right wing spaces, if that makes sense. I don't know. I haven't fully fleshed that idea out, but it's something I've kind of noticed.
They're very like, I'm a good boy. I support the good thing, which is, what moral, upstanding people do in society, unlike those magatards, at work or in my
Evil
suburb.
chuds.
The evil chuds. We're not like them. I promise I'm not like them. I support and give my whole endowment to Ukraine and Israel. Except now Israel is the new current thing, so that's what we're going to talk about. Although the left is kind of schizo on that too, right? I think that's what
Oh
we
yeah,
noticed about that.
yeah. They are schizo, but I don't think. What? No, I'm actually going to push back about that. I don't think they're schizo. I think it's definitely an anti-whiteism, because I think all third worldism, yeah, even I think third worldism in general, and that's been the position of the left since forever, especially like if you think about Obama's intellectual priors that were established in the university he attended way before he went there, like the anti colonial third worldism kind of philosophical advancement, the march through the institutions of that philosophy, I- that that's been like a mainstay of the left for a long time, and it's grown, and it's like at its core is like like they say, the idea of whiteness, like, and stuff like that. It's a project against anti-whiteness, and so it's like I don't think it's necessarily schizophrenic for these ultra prog left people to be um pro Palestine. I think it actually makes a lot of sense because the a lot of the intellectual priors of anti-colonialist, like progressive speak, got embedded very deep, and especially like right before the Obama era and in the Obama era, and then it stuck. And so like the people in charge can't just shed those intellectual priors from like these like absolutely schizo people that are their golems. They can't make them drop that at the drop of a hat. So that I don't think it's as much cognitive dissonance as you think.
No, I think you're probably right about that. Actually, there's no like moral principles here. It's just like I think a lot of them are kind of fake and cringe, as Distributist recently said on the stream. These people, they're quite fake, and they'll just believe in whatever, uh, whatever the chip says to believe in at the current time, at the behest of those in charge of the current regime that we live under.
Yeah. Anyway, we're talking way too much about current events. This is supposed to be a chill stream. No
That's right.
theory,
We're
no
yeah, we
theory
had dropped
cell
the theory,
stuff.
so yeah.
But so here's what I wanted to shoot by you. It's like, do you have any crafts or anything that like you do? I don't know. It could be paper mache for all I care, or like anything, or music.
Not really. Sometimes I listen to music from like early 2000s video games.
Man, that's what we need to get you into, because like I've just been in a rabbit hole researching composites. And some of you guys out there might find this kind of interesting. Is the most well-known composite material, of course, if you don't know car stuff, if you know car stuff, you'd say glass fiber composite. But if you just buy bougie stuff, you would say carbon fiber composite, epoxy composite. And I've just been in a rabbit hole researching and going through a bunch of academic papers and stuff like that about the different matrices you can make and stuff like that. And one thing that I found very interesting is I found in my research that there's actually like a lot of metal powder additives you can add to these materials, and they increase the surface hardness by like 75% and stuff like that. And of course, like there's metal in it, but the way that's distributed, especially if you have like a high concentration, you can basically cast metal without any heat, or a little bit weaker metal without any heat. And I just thought that was so freaking interesting. And I'm actually doing some composite mold development right now. I don't know if you think that's interesting at all, or I'm just kind of rambling.
No, it sounds interesting from a gun person kind of perspective there. Because from what I know, my limited knowledge about 3D printers, it's like the concept seems cool because of the base redacted components you're not allowed to have under
Yeah.
the current NFA regime in charge of our Second Amendment rights. However, the problem with that idea is like they're plastic and they're very brittle. So if you try to do that, it would break pretty quickly, unless you have like a metal kind of compactor. There is a couple of the metal ones that I've seen, the 3D metal ones. Those seem kind of cool, but those are really, really expensive. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how strong those are either in terms
Yeah.
of like completely fabricating those
Yeah, so
edgy
you can
components.
actually. So here's the thing that I CAD people have not like fully embraced is the idea that your 3D printer is not supposed to make finished part. In fact, well, here's the thing: you can make finished parts off of a 3D printer that work for that work exceedingly well, but the real application, I think, of 3D printing is to make jigs, fixtures, and molds. In order to like, because the thing is like you can only print so fast as the printer prints, right? Whereas you could print 100 molds, and then you could set up a big molding operation where you just spend a whole day or a whole weekend, molding up parts, and by the end of 2 days, you could have 100 parts. Whereas the same printing time for that part, through the whole weekend, you would have just made like 20 parts. And so that's the thing that I think is actually going to be a boon, is like one of my big focuses, and things I think about a lot is how do we bootstrap American manufacturing back, and especially employ people back into manufacturing, because there's not an easy inroad like there used to be, right? There's engineering degrees and all the technocratic bullshit in the way. I think the more bootstrap operation sort of started out of a shop, and now I rent a small commercial space and I employ 5 guys. To one guy manages orders, one guy manages paperwork, and then me and you know the other dudes, we just focus on production or whatever. I think that is the future of American manufacturing. And then one of those shops hits a big idea and they explode, and it's like I want our guys to be that. And it's just like I always want to float little ideas, on these streams or whatever. I remember whenever I think the very first podcast I ever did was Jay Burden, and that was
Many
basically
such
my
cases.
many such cases. But that was like my whole call to action was like, guys, like here's a bunch of recommendations. I think you guys can make parts. Like really check this out, because like there is going to be some big fluctuations in the globalized manufacturing market at some point. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be in 10 years, but there is going to be a shakeup, and there, because it's not tenable to have the globalized economy is inherently unstable. And that was kind of my point. It's just like you guys should probably figure out how to make stuff.
And it's especially unstable when you have AOC and the likes of Kamala Harris, running the ship, and that really doesn't give you confidence when those are the best figureheads that they can put out,
Dude,
supposedly running the ships.
wait, Kamala who? Because isn't she like locked in the dungeon? What does she even do? I haven't seen her like in the news in like, I don't know, a year. Like I haven't heard a big Kamala thing in about a year. Like what's going on?
I don't know. Maybe they're using her to extract some extra adrenochrome for Biden. I don't know. Could be, for his 2024 run. Maybe Joe's kind of running low, and well, they could replace her with another black woman, and like I don't think half this country would even notice the difference. Quite frankly, actually, I would say 90% of this country wouldn't notice the difference because they're practically the same person.
So what do you think? Do you think like 2020, do you think that Biden is going to, I don't know, like run how many sorry, I got a little bit of cough. Biden basically ran from his basement in 2020. He probably had like what, 20 stops. He made like 5 speeches, and most of them were like televised from like a 5-person audience in some garden somewhere. You know what I mean? Like he basically didn't campaign on the road, right? Do you think? I mean, he's got to do the same thing again, considering how frail he is. It's just like, do you think he's going to put any effort into actually hitting the road? And I just don't see it. Like, how can a campaign for him work? He can't go anywhere. He's basically crippled.
No, and not only is he crippled, like he's literally falling everywhere, even on like one step. With like, ever seen those videos where they zoom in on his shoes after he like falls, like for the 5th time in that day, and he has like special inserts. You know what I mean? For like, so you don't fall, like those
Oh,
non-slip shoes you buy for your goalie job,
he
and like
has
it's still not enough for him.
he has anti-fall shoes. Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, he
That's so
does.
bad. Oh no, he's so fucked, dude.
And
It
he's still following. He's still
I I really don't understand like the sort of calculus that I don't know, DNC like heads, like think tank and policy wonk people like had to go through in order to settle on, yeah, Joe's our guy. Because I'm so surprised that there hasn't been a dark horse moment where Pete Buttigieg bursts out onto the scene. I was gunning for like if I had
Pete.
to put, yeah, no, I wasn't gunning for Pete. Let's be very clear. No, if I had to put money on it, I would have said, 6 months ago or 8 months ago that Pete Buttigieg is going to come out of nowhere and make a really like powerful run at something. It's like maybe come up as like a number 3 underneath Biden and I don't know, Gavin Newsom if he decided to run. But he would really stick it out. He would stick it out until the end, until they finally called it on the delegate count. And it's just like, I am so surprised that didn't happen, because that dude is naval intelligence as fuck. And if you'll allow me to go on a little bit of a diatribe about Mr. Buttigieg,
No, please go ahead.
me and my roommate, there was a documentary shot about his presidential run in 2020. And me and my roommate sat through the entire thing analyzing it. We just wanted to analyze, like, what is this Pete guy really about? Like, because the camera, you got to reveal a little bit of your true self in front of the camera. It can't all be fake. And what we discovered is that that man is not gay. He winces when he kisses his, I'm not going to call him husband, partner. He winces. That man is literally a naval intelligence plant. That guy is just a Fed. It's just like his whole life, it was just set up for him by the agency, dude. That guy is so completely not gay. It's hilarious. And I think that someone could actually, especially in the Prague, the Prague turn of leftist politics and stuff like that, I could definitely see a dude going like, especially a power hungry guy, like I think Pete is. I can definitely see that guy saying, "Well, I need to get on the chart somehow, so I guess I'll be gay." And so he actually entertains this like fake gay relationship forever, in order to like maintain his image and actually get him some street cred, in democratic machine politics and stuff like that. I think that's what he's doing. What do you think? Have you seen any evidence to the contrary?
Looked into him in a long time, quite frankly.
Good. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's so
because
bad.
he's just like this absolute deep state creation, like Mark Zuckerberg kind of is. The best evidence for like human robots, by the way. Quite frankly, these people. And nothing about them is original or unique in any way. They're just like this pure like lab creation from the bureaucracy, and it's completely fake and gay. There's nothing new or original about them. I don't find them interesting at all. He's like pretending to be Obama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He is white Obama. Yeah.
From like
because...
Nova intelligence circles. He's like, and yeah, he's like still kind of gay about it too. So it's like,
well, so even if he's not actually gay, he is spiritually gay. So the thing is that works out. It's just in the reverse. He's just like spiritually, yeah, very, very fake, very gay, or very fake, very cringe as well.
the interesting thing about him, he was the mayor of E. Michael Jones's town in Indiana for a couple of years.
Dude, I bet E. Michael Jones sent him some choice letters, dude. I would love to be a fly on the wall when one of his staffers was reading an E. Michael Jones letter. Oh my god.
That would be so fucking funny. That would be really funny. I wish I could have been a wall to see that happen.
Dude, I'm gonna send E. Michael Jones like $1,000 and be like, hey, I will pay you $1,000 per open letter to X politician video. Dude, that would be sick. That would honestly be freaking awesome. But then again, he's his own person. He's not a puppet that I can play. But hypothetically, in a world where that sort of thing existed, that would be sick. I mean, imagine the E. Michael Jones open letter to Obama. And it's shot like a like a Daily Wire Jordan Peterson, like little bit and stuff like that. That would be amazing.
Bro, I need to get the Jordan B. Peterson like Two-Face like suit that he has, just like this Harvey Dent look.
Dude, honestly,
he's adopted as his persona.
If he didn't wear those stupid ass shoes and actually wore some shoes that matched the outfit, and the hem length of those pants was correct, and so like that could have been a ballin' ass suit. I think it could have been, and this may be a very unpopular opinion with everybody, but that is some wacky type suit shit that I would wear somewhere. That seems fun to me.
No, it seems like something Frog Twitter and our side of the internet would like completely, and it matches our persona 100%. So I would totally endorse that idea. Of course, without the Jordan Peterson retardation additions, like the clown shoes that he's got to wear, because he's trying to be like Ronald McDonald and the Joker at the same time. And a Zionist, so it's just this awful, cringe melting pot of gay.
Do you think after the war? So, do you think after the war in Israel that Jordan Peterson will finally complete the trilogy?
I think we're gonna see a conversion video.
No,
Listen.
no.
By the way, did you ever see that video? I don't know. Maybe we could. Fingers crossed. We'll see. He goes full blown. We'll see if he blows. He fully converts. He might come out of the closet.
Oh man, I mean, it's obvious at this point. But no, what did I see? Wait, did I see what?
I forgot what you said. I lost my train of thought there because we're talking about Pete Butt and all of the other clowns that like our ruling class. Well, they're not even the ruling class; they're just the puppets the ruling class puts out in front of us, so that people pretend as though they have a voice in government. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At least it's entertaining. See, that's the point I was going to get to. Is I'm really hoping this next election season on the Democratic side, I'm really hoping we see another what's her name? Marianne Williamson.
We have something even better, my friend.
Oh,
we have the Buffalo running for president. Have you not heard about the Buffalo?
No, I have not been. I make sure to not pay attention to the Buffalo at any and every.
He is running for president of this country, and I just gotta say, he's got my full endorsement. Buffalo 2024 on this channel. You're here to hear, folks. Listen.
So didn't he have he had a failed run for governor? No,
California House.
The
House.
State House.
No, he tried to run for Congress in California.
Oh, for Congress. Okay. I was trying to remember. I knew he ran for something and it failed miserably. He came up like 7th or something like that. Dude, that's embarrassing. And now he's going for president? Dude, you've got to be schizophrenic.
Bro, I know it's schizophrenic, but listen. I would love to see the Biden Buffalo debates. Come on. And RFK? I would pay to go see that. That would be so kino.
Dude, that would be. See, that's what I'm saying.
Have got nothing on that.
Dude, DNC politics they actually are entertaining because, like, if you're a deep right person, you are actually viewing that entire situation from the outside. Yeah, like from a complete outsider's perspective. Whereas, like, like the GOP politics will try to throw you a bone or something like that. It's like, I agree with that. It takes a lot of the fun out of it. Whereas, like, when you're in that complete fugue, disassociative state with the political aesthetics that are going on the TV screen, that's what I think. That's the key element of why I think, at least for me, that DNC politics is so entertaining. It's a complete shit show. And it's like, you don't have to go through the cope to realize that. It's just like, then as soon as you've internalized this, and I think that's a lot of where the discourse has gone recently. I mean, just like as of this year, with turning the eye of our mini eye of Sauron back onto the GOP side and trying to apply some of that shit testing kind of heuristics back onto the GOP to like it's both parties are the same. I know that's a glib boomerism or whatever, but it's like we're kind of seeing a lot of the same tricks at play. And I find that's been a very interesting development because we can take the entertaining side of the DNC, but then apply all the important lessons we learned about power politics all the way back onto the GOP and actually gain some insight on you know, our biggest enemy, really, and how they are shooting us in the kneecap every day. So that's been very interesting, and that's why I bring up DNC politics as entertainment in the first place.
We gotta get Lou Thimplar to edit this masterpiece of Joe Biden, Cenk Uygur, and RFK on a debate stage. Just this masterpiece of America in the year 2023, like the absolute simulacrum of
Man,
just the state of modernity.
dude, they've got a meter for Joe where they say where it's like basically like a engine what is it called, tachometer, right? It's basically like hooked up to his heart rate and like his brain waves and stuff like that, and they juice him up with amphetamine and adrenochrome until that thing is locked at 9,000 rpm. You know, it's like he's at the red line, and that's what they're gonna do for these debates, dude. They're gonna redline his ass, and he may have a stroke on stage, dude. It's gonna be feel bad, pray for his soul. However, I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to put $5 on it right now. DM me on Twitter if you want in on that bet. I will bet $5 that there is a medical issue with Joe Biden during the primary, any of the primary debates. So that covers the debate season.
I don't think he'll do the debates, honestly. I think they've said as much. He's not going to do the debates, quite frankly. And here's the thing about our side. Our side is so gay. Like the absolute snooze fest of the other Republican debates. If anybody watched those, like just absolute snooze fest.
It was horrible. Wait, are you talking about he's not here, so we're gonna call him Donald Duck? Oh my god, that was a whole moment, dude. That was actually Mr. Christie broke through the mimetic containment layer around normies for a minute, but for all the wrong reasons. It was amazing.
Man, that's the weird thing about Chris Christie, as I like to call my favorite politician, by the way. Is like he knows the Subway footlong menu so well, and like he can kind of do politics very well, and he is actually a good speaker. It's just that he's adopted so much retardation over the past couple of years that every time he tries to do something interesting or funny and try to break through, he's just held back by his retarded ideas, and it just comes across as completely fake and cringe. So he just is this massive buffoon who sits there on stage.
I wonder because like this is
and like in a future timeline, he could have been a based guy. He could have been the future like dictator of New Jersey if he wanted to.
He could have, but here's an interesting point, like a point of minutia, especially because like our side has definitely been physiognomy roasting Mr. Christie. But the other side, I wonder, have I seen a lot of the left physiognomy, like fat roasting, fat shaming, if you will, Mr. Christie? That might be an interesting dynamic to play off of, right? It's because, for their own political convenience, like the left will discard any of its values because all they value is power at the end. And so they sniff out which way power wants them to go. Power wants them to hate Mr. Christie because he's nominally right wing, right? As part of the kayfabe of politics, right? So I wonder if we're gonna see fat shame. Well, yeah, we will. I wonder if he actually holds what's his betting odds right now. Let me pull that up. This might be interesting because I think that the amount of fat shaming that Mr. Christie will get from the left is proportional to his betting odds.
That's an interesting hypothesis. We'll definitely have to see if it plays out. No, but we love Chris Christie on this channel. We are devout Chris Christie fans. Chris Christie 2024.
Oh no. I would endorse Jeb before I endorse Mr. Christie, I'll be honest.
Listen, I endorse Chris Christie as the president of Subway. 2030, 2060, 3100.
The
Quite
about the
frankly.
I endorse the 1,000-year reign of Chris Christie over Subway. What fuck you mean? That's the king. That's the king of Subway.
You know what they call a foot long, right? A Christie. Because he eats them so much. They had to rename them a Christie. So instead of a $1 foot long, it's what it's two Christies.
Oh God, two Christies. Here, I don't want your ads. I want his betting odds. Can someone? Oh yeah, can Christie succeed as Trump Slayer? New Jersey has thoughts. The former governor with his very considerable baggage intensive. Oh no, this is earlier on. I want betting on. I don't want articles. Damn it. Well, no. I will report back later on betting odds for Mr. Christie, and I will.
That man
Well,
is single-handedly responsible for keeping Golden Corral in the fight in the year 2023. That man has done us such a great service as keeping the American institution of Golden Corral still existing. Can we get a round of applause for how that man has kept Golden Corral alive and
so
profitable?
maybe I don't know. There's been a lot of hubbub about Golden Corral. After I'm diving back into trades and stuff like that. But there was a woodworking YouTube channel that had a video go mega viral, and it was like a building competition, who can build a better table, and it was between two neighbors, the YouTuber guy who's a young guy, a bunch of professional tools, and this old 80-year-old woodworker guy that's his neighbors. And they had a big, build off who built the better table, and it went mega viral. And the bet was, if old man wins, we'll go to Golden Corral. And I think that has like 14 million views or something like that. So I think that Golden Corral being mentioned in that video is, if not equal, is a very tight runner up to Mr. Christie and his efforts to keep Golden Corral afloat.
This is going to be the newest trend, I predict, after like the Israel and U.S. flag pin that all Republican politicians wear. Chris Christie is going to have the Golden Corral pin on his suit, so we know who he supports through and through.
Dude,
His benefactors.
I hate Golden Corral dual citizens, man. They're bringing their Golden Corral politics over here. What's up with that? Oh God.
No, it's so true. We hate the $5 special and the fudge bar.
Oh man. So
No,
what have
yeah.
you been up to recently, man? Yeah, you got anything in the works?
Well, as fans of this channel would long know, me and Thomas are supposed to do a part 2 to the North African series fairly soon.
Hell yeah.
Where we discuss the based campaign of General Rommel across the countries of Libya, Tunisia, and Egypt. So that's something I am working on. I'm also working on a scripted video currently about an extremely based topic that I'm not going to spoil now.
Okay.
You're just gonna have to wait for that, but it's pretty based. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. So that's what I'm currently working on.
Yeah. I have in the works. Man, I've had a topic in mind for an article for a while. I really got to add something to my Substack, because my single article is very, very lonely up there. But no, I'm doing a bunch of research. Speaking of like other, like podcast stuff. I think me and Oros Post, here after I get my research done, we're gonna do a stream on dispensationalism, and kind of like the goal of the stream is kind of to get to the root of American Christian Zionism and stuff like that.
Ooh, that's a fun topic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I've got two. See, it's funny, but it's also embarrassing. I got two books on the topic of American Israeli relations, and from the dispensation, or it's from a historical analysis from the dispensational perspective. It's an interesting book. I watched a podcast with the author of the book kind of talk about like his methodology for researching, and kind of like how he laid out that book in particular. And then also that same author wrote a history of or a historical analysis of dispensationalism in America. And I got both of those books, and one of them mentions or makes reference to Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War in the preface. And I literally put my hands on my face out of like sheer embarrassment. I was like, this is a serious book, and you're talking about Infinity War. You are oh, dude.
Muppet.
I want to email this guy and be like, and just send him a picture of that piece of text and just be like, you are a Marvel American. You're not going to make it.
Marvel American. That's a great new term, actually. Marvel American.
Wait, that's not a term? I thought that was a term someone
No,
already
I've never heard
with.
about that.
Oh, Marvel American.
I'm going to coin that now.
I made a new right-wing term. Mom, are you proud
Make
of
sure
me?
you clip that. Make sure you clip that, guys. Anyway.
I'm going to clip it.
You're here to her, folks.
Yeah,
Marvel Americans.
Yeah, my fellow Marvel Americans. No, Marvel Americans are they're so many different levels of not going to make it. And it's even the ones that are intellectually serious, like this guy who is like an actual historian who seems to be fine. Like everything he said on the interviews that I've seen of him, like seem to be like he's just kind of like a pretty reasonable guy. He's like, he actually does dig through a lot of the history and brings up a lot of interesting things. And when he was talking specifically about the topic of dispensationalism and his methodology, and to fill you guys in, if you guys don't know what dispensationalism is, it is eschatology. It's a Christian interpretation of the
Loose
Bible.
Quotes around that word.
Yeah, true. It's like I'm trying to keep the veil of neutrality on this one. It is retarded. It's very cringe, very not based, but it is a belief about an interpretation of scripture about the end times, right? And the core belief, part of the core structure of that belief and how it interprets scripture is that the end times are structured in a premillennial way. So it is a premillennial way of reading the Bible. And there is also a distinct separation between Israel and the church, right? Israel in the end times has a part to play in prophecy. And so when Mr. Darby kind of popularized premillennial dispensationalism, sorry,
Dispy.
Dispy. Yeah. When he went, Darby being a Dispy, bruh, for real, no cap. That actually like sowed the ground for the growth of Christian Zionism a lot more than it had before. At least that's my understanding as of now. That's why I'm diving more into it, because like I really want to get to the bottom of Christian Zionism, and especially America, because that's where the link is strongest.
It's a cancer, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I know these people are good-hearted because I grew up with these people, so it hurts even worse because they just don't understand anything about this issue. They don't understand the basics, and that's the problem with them. They're supporting people who hate them.
Right. And so I think the way to defeat this is, I mean, it has to be an eschatological debate, right? It's I would prefer, because the nature of my belief is basically all millennial, right? So I don't premillennial, postmillennial. I'm like, you guys are, Jesus said, no one's gonna know the time, day, or hour. Just stop, right?
The same position. The same positions.
Yeah, stop. All this number bean counting, and there's this, if you add these two
if you
numbers
just read the Bible code in this way, it tells you about Hitler.
Dude, yeah, stop that horseshit. I think that's absolutely insane. But but I think I think there is a deep rooted like it was a cancer that glommed onto evangelicalism particularly hard. And that is the interesting thing because I don't think you see kind of religious cross pollination happen in this way in history, or at least that's something that I'm not aware of. Please, viewers, send us examples if you know of this kind of religious cross pollination between, like, I don't know, like Hindu guys that are super Buddhist or something like that. You know, I'm pro Buddha Hindu guy. You know, it's something that I've not really heard of because most of, like, if you look at the early branching of Christianity into like Gnostic sects and different heretical pseudo religions, like off of the beginning of early Christianity, you know, not too long after the fall of the Second Temple and stuff like that. It's like, but there wasn't like cross pollination between it, or even like, yeah, especially between the Abrahamic religions. So there might be some room, you know, with Eastern religions for that to be the case. But I just think it's unique. Like dispensationalism and Christian Zionism is very interesting to me because I don't think I've ever seen, you know, that happen before, or I'm not aware of a time that's
It's a
happened before.
uniquely American phenomenon.
It
Just like
is not.
many things that have come out of the Second Great Awakening, which was,
I, I
I have a
don't
couple
think
things to
it's
say about that.
I don't think it's uniquely American. I think there is a small segment of Christian Zionists. It is significantly less in the rest of the, you know, the Westosphere. You know, but I think they exist in small numbers. You are correct to say that is majority an American phenomenon, but Christian Zionism, as far as my research has gone so far, which is just early skimming so far, so don't grill me if, you know, I'm totally wrong or something. But what I've seen is like there has been, especially in eschatology, there's been interesting, weird things about Israel in prophecy for a while, and so like part of the history of this book is going back to even premillennialism as a foundation, and kind of like researching like a little bit of the basis of premillennialism. And some of that history does end up touching on like this separation between church and Israel and prophecy and stuff like that. So like there's like seeds there where it's been like developed before, and that was a European phenomenon. Like the beginning of dispensationalism was a European phenomenon. So I don't know. It's just like I could ramble on this for an hour because it's just like it's so interesting.
It is very interesting, but at the same time, it's just also kind of depressing realizing these people like are still holding on to this like notion that of Israel just doesn't exist. It has not existed for over 2,000 years. Uh, Almost like they're trying to be like Old Testament Jews, as Chris says.
Right. That's actually something that I said to one of my buddies very recently. Is like, man, the more I read into this is like, you know, have you heard of the, I can't remember what it's called. It's called the something light switch, but it's a special light switch where on you know, the Jewish Sabbath or whatever, you're not allowed to do work, which means even switching on electronic appliances and stuff. So it's a special light switch that actually breaks a laser beam, and the laser beam sets off a randomized timer, and eventually that turns on the light. And this is like a totally legalistic way of like, tricked you, God, you know, like suck
Bro,
on that.
I know this is like we have to bring up the chicken example on this channel.
And dude, this is exactly why I hate premillennialism, is because it's basically doing the same thing where it's like, okay, some Christians from America are going to stomp into Israel, build the third temple like it's like a ramshackle shack, and then they're going to tear it down, and then they're going to look up at the sky and say, "Look, God, I did it. You know, I dare you
Now
to
you have to come right now.
yeah, now you have to come right now." It's like like you're gonna litigate the issue with God? That never goes well, dude. Do not do that. Oh man, that is one thing that's like increasingly been annoying to me as I've researched more of this. It's like it's very like, yeah, I'm gonna prove God what he's gonna come when I tell him to come, and I'm like,
It's
oh
Talmudic legalism.
yeah,
I'm
it's
going to
like
trick God to get what I want, basically.
yeah, it's very
And
oh
I'm going
my
to use this window dressing. So that's not what I'm actually doing, but this is what I'm doing actually, and it's a good thing.
and that yeah, and you get the celebration parallax as well, which is like especially interesting because like are there a lot of examples of celebration parallax on the right? Like maybe for normie cons, to actually it's a good thing that like the free market destroyed, some traditional thing or something, or destroyed or Walmart. Actually, Walmart's a really good example of this. Of celebration parallax on the right. It's like, well, the efficiency of markets means that it's actually a good thing if Walmart runs all the ma and pa shops out of town, and even though we really like those shops and those people, were very important
I can
and
get my potato chips for 50 cents cheaper, so I'll be
e-
taking my business over there, moseying
e-
my ass over there to get in that scooter because I deserve it.
exactly, and so that's some like it takes longer because the Walmart issue took a lot longer to actually be like, well, no, it's actually a good thing. Efficient markets, efficient markets, efficient markets. And it's just like, no, I hate that shit. No, no more Walmarts. Total Walmart
I
death.
think this side of the right that you were talking about, and they've never been like, especially now, they've never been a particularly large segment of the right. And these would be in like the neocon camp of the right, in terms of the ideology. I
Or
feel like they were
vaguely,
really destroyed in like 2016 with the era of Trump. Before then, everybody was on board about capitalism basically as their religion. Jesus plus capitalism equals America, basically,
you
was the
were
ruling
still
ideology.
you were still allowed to be, generally like kind of this barely to the right social conservative with this kind of like default neutral position of this kind of like efficient market theory thing, and this nascent libertarianism, right? That's the way that my dad approaches politics. He's a nascent libertarian, where he's like, well, you should go to church, and well, you're not living right. Some of these people ain't living right. Well, some of these people shouldn't be on the streets. Well, man, it's so sad that, but it's all very sentimental, right? And that what and to your point, it was totally destroyed by Trump because like then you can't once Trump happened, the Trump moment happened, you couldn't ignore the fact that that doesn't work. Look
No,
at
it was the reality.
California.
It was true. The reality behind it.
Wait, what? The reality behind what was true? Sorry.
But the idea originally, because this was an economic argument, right? And they were using this for immigration, right? About making everything
Oh, yeah.
cheaper and more efficient, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
like shilling for corporations, right? Because that was something the right loved, by the way, when I was growing up. It was the site of like big corporations, and shilling for, Bud Light and banks. Maybe not banks, but like Target and like what I mean, all these other companies. Because like, well, don't you know, capitalism is the best ideology ever made, and it's just fair. They make things so cheap that it drives all the small mom and pops out of business, because that's just principles of the free market. You remember this argument?
Yeah.
This used
Yeah.
to be like the prime argument everyone would use.
I yeah, this is why I'm very happy to have all my internet friends now. Is because like someone who had like I don't know, some sort of instinctual level of reaction to that kind of argumentation for, the crushing of the human soul through like, making all these businesses hyper efficient and shit like that and paying everybody a dime, like that is something that I've definitely been glad because like before maybe like 2017 I definitely didn't see any of that on the right, and that maybe that was my own lack of deep diving, but especially since then my perception has been is like, well, the ultimate good, is praising God and you're pursuing that kind of meaning, and all of this basically capitalism worship horseshit, has got to go out the wayside. And it's like that was something that was very satisfying to me, to see, and especially like something that definitely won me over from more cringe politics is like, oh yeah, no, there is ultimately a higher good than the market and stuff like that. And something that had been frustrated with the right, or quote unquote the right, neocons, all them, the people that you vote for and shit. Something I had been very displeased with since forever, and I think especially as or my buddy Oros, he's a big fan of Jacques Ellul, or even Ted Kaczynski talking about the power process, and or all these different writers. They could be anywhere from post left to to very esoterically hard right. They all have a different sense of what really makes man's life worth living and stuff like that. It's just like I'm really happy that at least that's being brought to the forefront in this economic argument about like, well, material good is essentially our ultimate good because we can figure out the rest later, so you can worship God in a perfect hyper efficient utopia. It's like, no, that's horseshit. That you've got the priorities completely inversed.
No, and you can really tell that was left over from like the '80s Reaganite, like hyper like Americanism with materialism to supplement it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it was in actuality, to kind of replace this like the dying like culture and like moral majority of America that was happening back then. Um, as we slowly began to take towards the '90s, but like as the living conditions just got worse though, and like as these new arrivals,
Yep.
became the majority, like hey, like
Hey, you
you're,
mean
you're
new Americans? Hey, you better watch your mouth, son. We respect new Americans around here.
yeah,
They
these
love
the new Americans.
they love the Second Amendment and First Amendment as much as me and you, son. And it's like, no, they don't, Dad. No, they don't.
No, it's like the higher spiritual values like have come back, and like the old dead god of capitalism is like dead at this point. Like it's a dead god. I think that's what Dave should have added to his list. Like, and I think that's a good thing, honestly, at this point, because like, oh, everything's good as long as I get a cheaper TV. That like this boomer mentality, right? Of I'm gonna sell out the nation, like future generations, so I can get my drugs and my Bon Jovi on demand for like 50 cents cheaper, like is untenable. Either we see why it's untenable because it produces nothing
Right.
in
And
the long
so,
run.
not to say, like, well, I'll just enumerate my position here. Not to say that, like, market theory and, all these economic, like, analyses do not are not true, right? They are true, but they fail to jump the is ought distinction, right? Just because market theory is this way doesn't mean that there ought to be the lowest, possible price for child pornography. That's insane, right? It's like, oh well, all free markets isn't that good, right? And this is maybe old hat argument, but it's like there are some things that from a moral basis that is completely outside of economics, should be restricted or destroyed. Like, or I would say that about pornography in general, or maybe like, I don't know. I'm kind of a teetotaler, but a hypocrite. It's like, no, I'm not gonna say ban alcohol because I don't know. Like, there's some things that the market should not apply to. There should be a very rigorous human hand controlling those things and destroying them if need be because they are
No,
moral
it's
evil.
it's like if it said, well, the free market says there's a market for heroin, so we're just gonna let people sell heroin at Walmart and
Right.
let people
Right.
destroy themselves and their lives. It's like, no, like you can't just like, well, I'm making money off it. No, this is what's good for society. We care about people's spiritual and well-being here. So it's like, no, the hand of the free market is going to be controlled by the morality of what's good ultimately.
I'm sorry, you sounded like a certain stereotype. It was like, what do you mean it's bad? I'm making money here. I thought that was a good thing. Don't we like making money here in America, right?
I'm not going to bring that up on this channel. I can't say the things I want to say about a certain
The
group of
TOS,
people.
the,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
TOS compels me not to. I will cease then. But no, that is something that I think, just to go back to the theory cell stuff, I think that's like a very interesting point of that ethnic and religious cross pollination that happened in America with the kind of cultural mores changing as Christian Zionism became uh,
Ascendant,
it,
yeah.
yeah, ascendant essentially, especially like
Especially after 1948.
yes, well, 1940, that it's very, yes. Well, anyway, we'll leave that aside. But that, yeah, that I find that very interesting how, like, not only did it change, like, certain attitudes towards, like, just like relationships. Like, for instance, we all view, I don't know, nascently, someone like North Korea or Britain, or no, South Korea, sorry. South Korea or Britain as like friendly, right? There's nothing like real there. That's a subject for geopolitical, you know, back and forths, right? Like the actual friendliness between nations, depends. Are they a client state? How much power do they have to exert onto the main center of the empire in order to extract what they want out of the empire? Stuff like it's completely devoid of sentimentality. Whereas I think everyone kind of subtly perceives that like certain countries are friendly, right? And that is something that I think is almost entirely the part of propagandistic efforts, right? Like for instance, K-pop. The reason why South Korea seems so friendly, especially these kind of like shit lip types, is something like a propaganda effort on the part of South Korea trying to boost like media sales. It's not something that they consciously focus on, as far as I know. Uh, but it is something that is at base a Bernaysian propaganda effort. And I think if we look back at the history, we'll see that played out in American or Christian Zionism, and I also think we'll see that in other countries that were otherwise unfriendly, but turned out to come around in a reciprocal relationship was built geopolitically, but the actual change of perception in the zeitgeist was on the part of propaganda efforts. Like the first example of that comes to mind for me is Japan after World War II, because most farmers would they would pitch a fit if there was a Mitsubishi part on their tractor, because I can't say the words they would say about Japanese people, but they would say I'm not going to have one of those parts on my tractor, right? And then eventually there was this weird propaganda effort, like it was totally this kind of mass psychology event that changed the perception of Japan to where Mitsubishi parts actually are good. It turns out they have good quality control. It completely flipped on its head, and that doesn't seem to me to be entirely top down, because there is something of this like general cultural exchange happening whenever that propaganda happens. Not to say it's a good thing; it's a aspect of globalism. I don't like it, but it is interesting to study.
No, you definitely can see this, especially when like groups submitted to the American Empire pretty early on. Korea comes to mind as a prominent
Mhm,
example. All of Western Europe, Germany,
mhm,
right? Like countries that were totally under the thumb of the U.S. empire and like still host our military bases, like get rewarded in terms of like their perception among the American people, which is the base that ostensibly dictates, the American empire's politics. at least a lot more back then symbolically. And also the base like has the most money and resources, right? So like you want the empire, you want Rome on your side, right? And if the population of Rome is going to support you, well, there can be a lot of benefits to that.
Of course. Yeah, or even it's interesting to see, like, even in the point that you just made, like Rome being on the side of, let's say Rome is America, right? Or DC. Let's say Rome is
Yeah.
DC. Uh, then Canada as a whole, right? That's an interesting way to view that as a lens, because they act way more as an independent and antagonist, kind of throwing their weight around. Because like Geo or any of the other Canadians that are in our sphere will happily note that Canada acts like a more progressive, better America, and they kind of enforce that social understanding, through media efforts to America. Like that's how they pitch themselves. Anytime you meet a Canadian, especially now after they've been kind of ultra deracinated and politicized now in the American progressive sense, as that's gotten, the shit libs of Canada have gotten worse, you can actually see that there's this interesting byproduct of like, well, I'm this semi-independent, per citizen of Rome, actually. And we're in this different province and we're actually better. It's just like we just wish Rome, the empire, would just pick it up. And that has been an interesting development, because that being the level of individual Canadian people that you meet is a recent development. Whereas, or as far as I know, because like I don't know many Canadians, but I do know some Canadians in passing through my work, or meet some Canadian. It's
Some
complicated.
leaves, as we like to call them on this
It's some
channel.
Yeah, some leaves, but that has been a strain that has gone through at least like Liberal Party of Canada stuff for as far as I can tell a while, where that's kind of their pitching mechanism, but that hasn't been internalized, to the Untermensch, until more recently. And I think America actually fed back into that propaganda effort and made it worse, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it was Black Horse who said this on a recent podcast where he's kind of like, the Canadian mission is basically defined by hatred for Red America
Hmm.
and like the specter of Red Americans controlling the empire, even though they live in a supposedly a separate country, and that's what defines their political reality. And like I just never even thought of it that way, but it's like, yeah, that's actually true. True. And it's just this like, yeah, it's this weird specter, but it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you're like this absolute satellite state. Like, and like I don't think satellite state is even like correct term. It's more of just like client state, um, poorly run client state of like the American elite basically.
I don't know if it's a client necessarily, because we could probably litigate this a little bit, because the way I see it is Canada throws its weight around, like they dip into American politics in a way that's taken seriously in the American media more than, let's say, Britain, right? Britain seems to be like, if there was a case to be made for Britain to be kind of cliented out to this kind of globalist American elite class, I think there's a stronger case there for them to be more on the side of totally a client, whereas Canada seems to be less subdued in its kind of, it's uppity. They're acting out of pocket up there. What are we going to do about it? We're going to go up there and liberate them. That's what we're going to do. No, they act out of pocket more, like as a geopolitical entity, which I think, I don't know, because they act in concert with Rome, with the main seat of power, but they also, I'm trying to think of specific examples. I don't know, like the gun ban in Canada, I think might be a good example, where it's specifically like Trudeau passed this sweeping legislation against firearms in Canada and basically passed a no grandfather clause. We're going to come pick guns up. They're on the registry if they meet these criteria, all that stuff. Absolute disaster. And it wasn't to own Canadian chuds. That was to own American chuds, right? And that is way more, that's acting uppity as opposed to being a client state, right? Because that is something whereas like gun bans in Germany are not pitched anywhere in any media except for American media that reports on it post facto, right? They will pitch that as a own to chuds, but Germany itself will not pitch their new gun bans or whatever as owning American chuds or owning Czechoslovakian chuds or whoever, right? Canada does that. Every other client state of DC does not, which that's the point I'm trying to get into is like they're less client than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I suppose that's a valid point actually. They're still kind of gay, in my opinion, and they're listen. We can have disagreements, but like in my opinion, Canada is not a real country. At least not anymore. So
shout out to Blood Satellite, guys. It will be a real country if we go up there and liberate them and put Dimes and Judas in charge.
We're talking a different story. The circumstances have changed.
Circumstances have changed. They would be a real country then.
And they could be. If this same foreign elite ruling class wasn't in charge, is there as well, as we do down here.
That's a tough one. That's a tough cookie to crumble. I'll be honest. That cookie don't seem to crumble. I don't know why. What else do you want to talk about, man? I'm kind of running out of stuff because I kind of shot my wad there talking about like the different composite stuff I was researching, and that's been preoccupying my entire mind for like the past week where I've been researching that. That's the only thing I really want to talk about other than Baudrillard, which I'm sure anyone who listens to me is sick of Baudrillard at this point.
Well, this isn't very relevant to what we were talking about, but I was listening to this great channel, and they were talking about the use of words, right? And like how the English language has over 8,000 words, right, to describe details, and it's like how fallen of a state we're in, where we have to use black slang as our language. That's our lexicon nowadays, and it's like we have these words in the English language, but like we just don't use them to describe things anymore. Instead, we use these modern kind of gay terms, right? And the example he brought up was when these fat land whales are like, I'm a foodie actually. I just really like food. I'm really into food. That's why I'm a foodie. And he was like, no, you're a gourmand. Is what you actually are. And I'm like, the impact is just way different, right? One is just so childish and unsophisticated, and one is just so real and immediately hits you, right? Like the negative connotations hit you like a knife, right?
Right. I could probably give, I don't know, if I was going to posit an explanation, right, based on purely intuition, I think the shrinking of the American lexicon, because it's not just American, it's English lexicon, because I don't know, I saw this video not too long ago about there's Canadian inner city slang that almost sounds like Jamaican. It's kind of, it's kind of Jamaican in its character. And but the reason why I think that sort of shrinking of the lexicon is happening, it has a lot to do with technology. My intuition is that interaction on instant message, especially instant messaging, right? Like email, even email, you would have to contemplate, maybe rewrite the draft one or two times because it's to your boss's boss, so you want to make it look professional and you actually want to think about what you want to say there. or something like that. But instant messaging or posting, even, it kind of incentivizes a different style of bandwidth of communication, or a different bandwidth of communication, because there's kind of like a novelty seeking algorithm even built into our brains that is trying to interact with more people. And that's actually like people who really enjoy social media. They do enjoy both this feedback mechanism of getting likes, but also like I even noticed it myself because like I was social media adverse until I was 21. I was not on any social media. After that, like I set up like LinkedIn and stuff like that, and I would basically interact professionally and stuff like that. Like I was really against it, and so even then, like these past 8 years, I've been hyper aware of how my psychology has changed because I really tried to enforce as a rule on myself not to grow up with social media because I thought in my mind it was a bad thing. Right. And I have seen myself even kind of change my bandwidth of communication in order to get like a high efficiency burst of something out to interact with somebody, and then go over to a different space or a different post and interact with someone else. And kind of like this, basically, a Bonic language is actually kind of tuned, accidentally evolutionary tuned to that sort of interaction, right? Think about, the cookout on the block. How many people are there? It's usually a lot. Whereas, like a meeting of the minds, more European style meeting, definitely has less people, right? So there's a different quality to bandwidth cutoff. Is like my idea of why this transition or this transition happened.
No, I think you're definitely onto something there about the social media, right? But I think it just kind of reflects the general like decline in our society, right?
Hmm.
And like the classical example of this is just like footage from like America in the 1940s and 50s, where everyone is wearing suits, everyone is dressed nice, everyone is healthy, and they look better than most people who go to the gym, right? Kind of the Bappy like physique, right? And it's just like that was the average American, like, and these people weren't rich. Most of them were middle to lower class, and it's like, and you just look at the average like man, and he's just this like childish, like fat, and he's wearing like a Star Wars shirt, right? With like Funko Pops, and it's just like that society is in decline, right? Clearly from its height, right, of sophistication and like just like society or like its cultural peak, right?
Or well-being. I would say like real human well-being, because like that guy, what the guy you just described is my old roommate, the roommate that moved out because he was sick of our politics. Which I was like, "Ha, based, lol, you fuck nerd." But that you described my ex roommate. He collected an assload of board games. Like literally, he had two hutches full of board games, and then yeah, just like crazy stuff. We kind of flubby. Wore not Star Wars t-shirts. He would wear. Oh God, what is the satire of superhero stuff? Show that everyone, like every shit live, like goes on and on about, like it's the most smart and funny, like, oh, it's a satire of Marvel and stuff like that. One of those shows, he would wear like that shirt.
I don't
So
know, the
like
Big Bang Theory or something. I don't know.
it basically, yeah, basically Big Bang Theory. He would wear Big Bang Theory shirts and stuff, like total like lefty spurred. And it's just like, man, like, oh, that's so annoying. God. Sorry, no, I got off on a little bit of a tangent. But anyway, but to your point more generally, I actually I lost my train of thought.
No, but like I think the point we're trying to get at as we kind of close out the stream here is like it kind of reflects the general decline in quality of people, right? And it's like I could pick out anybody from the 1930s America, right? 1920s, right? These people, I could pick out any one of them, right? And I bet I could have a more intellectual discussion with the average American today, right? Who probably doesn't even know what a state capital is, right? I bet that average American from the 1930s would at least know their state capital, right? Bare minimum, right? They would probably know like the English canon, right? You know what I mean? So they're
Oh yeah, I remember what I was gonna say. I was gonna say like that decline in general, uh, like because that guy was generally like not curious and stuff like that, or didn't want to. I don't know, like exercise. Like men are generally curious about like the extents of their own body. That's why like sports are a thing, or you know, uh, gymnastic or like the old Greek style of gymnastics. You know, if you want to go back to Bappy and stuff, and so like there is a genuine like curiosity with wanting to interact with the world, whereas these people like they've hit a feedback mechanism where they want to degrade society as they degrade themselves as well. I think was the point I was getting to, where this kind of like I kind of want to block myself off. I just want to play board games or video games and stuff like that. I want to be fat and lonely and not do anything. Like genuinely, like do not want to interact with the world in any sort of like good or curious way, or something that's, I don't know, a precondition to like good human flourishing or anything like that. They don't want any of it anymore.
no, they're almost like pandas, right? Who like
Oh, dude, that's the yes, they're
they're
panda
almost like
Americans.
pandas, right? Because like they give these pandas like literally everything they could ever want, right? To like have sex and like breed, right? And yet they just don't want to breed at all. Like they, they play the music, everything. They give a male and a female, and it's just like, actually, I'm good. I'm gonna go look on Reddit. You know what I mean? It's just like that's the mark of an unhealthy person, right? That's like the end of your genetic line, whether you want to like these people like realize that like consciously or not, like subconsciously, maybe they kind of resign themselves to that fate, right? Where it's
Listen,
like,
I don't know about you, but Jing Zhao, the panda, I wouldn't breed with her either. She's a total bitch. I mean, God, she won't stop nagging and nag. Sorry, that was for the bit. I had to do it.
no, I think it's very pertinent to this example, right? Because like, if as a man, you're supposed to have the desire to want to spread your seed, right? And we get into the morality of that later, but like, if you like don't have that basic desire, it's kind of like, well, you're kind of just like this fat, like, what's your purpose exactly, right? I mean, unless, and these people aren't religious either, so it's like their entire existence gets caught up into collecting like some plastic crap, or it's like some show that becomes their
See,
entire life, right?
this is
Because
why I don't like I actually genuinely like Catholics, is because like the way that they would put that is like, oh yeah, telos, reason for being, right? It's like what you were doing is sinful because it is against your telos, and they would have some Aristotelian formula for like, okay, your reason for being, or the reason for X being is this, right? So if it's not to X's like purposes ends, therefore it's bad, like de facto. And it's like that is a very simple heuristic. It's like, you as a man, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to, fight, eat meat, hunt, like do shit, build society, and have a lovely lass and stuff like that. And anything that is not to like what is truly a man's telos, right, is like this sinful thing that kind of like feeds back into itself over and over again. And this is part of the logic, like that actually like really genuinely makes me like all the Catholics I know, is because like, oh yeah, it's what is the thing's purpose? And it's like, oh, it's like a man, part of a man's purpose is to have children. And it's like, dude, it's everything. Even the very prudish evangelical types, they're totally against this. And it's like, well, no, it be fruitful and prosper. You can be, um, against pornography and still say, yeah, having sex and having kids is good. It is part of a man and woman's telos and stuff like that. And that, just like the panda example as compared to the lib, right? It's like, well, both of these are things that in modernity seem to give up their telo. Like there's no way of recapturing it. And I don't know how to beat sense into these people, because I tried with my ex roommate who is like one of these panda Americans or whatever. He's a
I
Marvel
don't. Maybe
American
it's
as
something
well.
in the water. I don't know. Maybe it's the plastics, all the microplastics that like.
Dude, With all my
Poisoning
3D
us.
printing, I probably contributed to his microplastics problem. And good, eat it, liberal. I showed you, gave you more microplastics, bitch.
Listen, you just gotta own it. Listen, be part of the problem. Quite frankly, if you're not part of the problem, you're not doing anything right.
Hey, guess what, guys? You know how much it costs to throw a battery in the ocean? $0. That's all I'm saying.
So true.
No, don't do that. Do not do that. Preserve God's creation. Do not throw a battery in the ocean. It is a funny meme, though.
Specifically a battery. Okay. Well, as we kind of close the stream out, Mike, is there anything you want to leave our followers with tonight as we kind of try to roll back some of the our intuitions to get caught up in the current thing? Because I see this phenomenon where we think we're ahead of this, like, oh no, we're so knowledgeable about this stuff, and I'm not going to get caught up and sucked into it. And I see all these Anons and Spurgs, getting caught up in the current thing as well, although they're just not signaling their infinite support and love for whatever the current thing is currently. You know what I mean? They're still getting caught up into it. And I'm not saying be ignorant, don't know anything about anything that's going on, but perhaps we should take a break from focusing our energy and time on these current things. You know what I mean, right?
I couldn't agree more. In fact, if I could leave you guys with anything, what's been keeping me going here this past week, especially as everything's just been so stupid. I mean, these quote unquote serious parts of the timeline, because we're online, folks. We're logged in. It has been so mind-numbingly just grinding, right? So how do you get through the grind? Me, this is the advice I'll give to anybody, is to pick up a trade. I don't care if it's building, wooden little boxes, or if it's 3D printing or gunsmithing or something. Do something with your damn hands. Ted Kaczynski, or Uncle Ted told us you have to do something that is more in line with your T-list, with your nature and stuff like that. And I think that's, looking back on our whole conversation, I think that's really what we're getting at, is what is your purpose? And I think a lot of it has to do with grab your wife by the ass, right? Give her a big old smooch on the cheek, and then say, all right, honey, after I get done in the workshop, we're going to make a baby. So that's my advice for everybody. That's the white pill. Work towards that goal. Ignore everything else except for your friends. Tune into their streams. That's all you got to do.
Exactly. That's what you should be doing. And remember, everyone, the light can't last forever. Keep your hopes up and have a good rest of your night. Peace, Bill.